Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillahi wa kafa, wa salamun ala ibadihi allazina istafa, amma ba'd. Fa'auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wa qada rabbuka alla ta'budu illa iyyahu wa bil walidayni ihsana. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wa salamun alal mursaleen. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad wa barik wa sallim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad wa barik wa sallim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad wa barik wa sallim. Rabbi yassir wa la tu'assir wa tammim bil khair wa bika nasta'een. Rabbi zidni ilma. Ya Fattah, Ya Fattah, Ya Fattah. Alhamdulillah, by grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are back in our gathering on a very blessed night. The night that could probably be the 15th of Shaban. And it most certainly is 15th of Shaban in some parts of the world. So the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are spread. Nonetheless, it is a night of Shaban and a blessed month. A month whose blessings we discussed and spoke about at length in a recent session. And more importantly, we are now entering the zone which is perhaps the final zone before the start of Ramadan as well. An exercise that we started with the start of Rajab, our attempt to prepare and be ready for Ramadan, is now accumulating in its final few sessions. I think the time that we have left, we will have one more session, inshallah, before the start of Ramadan. So the next Tuesday would probably be our last session. In the recent sessions, the last 2 to 3 sessions, we have narrowed our discussion down to discussing what are the things that we need to do to preserve the nur that comes in the month of Ramadan. And the ultimate objective and goal is that we preserve this nur in our heart, because this nur will inshallah then help us elevate our spirituality to an extent where we can become a person of taqwa. Our goal is to meet the objective that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set for Ramadan, which is la'allakum tattaqoon. We started with the understanding of what is it mean to be the person of taqwa, and we then started looking at it, that what are the things that help us preserve the nur, which then leads us to becoming a person of taqwa. In that, we went into understanding that there are things which actually come and act as a leakage of that nur. So we started looking at those things, that what is it that we should stop from, or what we should prevent ourselves that would take that nur away from our hearts. And in that, we were looking at 2 things. We were looking at the sins which are outwards and the sins which are inwards. And we started the entire discussion around sins with the ayah of Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that leave the sins which are outward and those which are inwards. In the outward sins, we talked about that there are 2 categories which are related to the things which we have been asked to do but we don't do, and in that we spoke about our salah. And then we looked at the things which we have been asked not to do but we still do them. And in looking at those sins which we have been asked not to do and we still do them, we realized that there are certain windows to our heart. And when we do things which we are not meant to do, we do them from certain organs of our body part which act as a window to our heart, and they bring blackness onto our heart. And therefore we spoke about last week, if you missed it, we spoke about how do ears come into play, eyes come into play, our tongues come into play, the stomachs come into play, our hands and feet come into play, and what is it that we need to do with each of these organs to ensure that these windows are closed and sealed and they do not bring blackness onto our heart. One of the most important takeaway from the last session, and I'll repeat it, I'll only repeat it. I will not do a quiz that who has already implemented it, but I'll only repeat it to say that get off the internet. Quit your social medias, quit your, right? Quit the Instagrams, Twitters, internet of choice, anything which is internet of choice, newspapers, anything. Because that is the most common source of not protecting our eyes, but nazri ki sabse common wajah, and at the same time a lot of time wastage. It brings a heap of dust on our hearts which we can easily do without. If nothing else, a ghibat, when we talk about backbiting is not just that we say things. Even if we are reading something which somebody else has written, that is also a mode of backbiting. So why indulge? Especially my advice to all those who care about preserving this Ramadan: stay away from all the political activities that is happening in Pakistan, and that will be at its peak in this Ramadan, because right after Ramadan is going to be elections. Because we throw a lot of heaps and heaps of mud on others during the political campaigns, and it's all ghibat. It's all ghibat. People say that that politician is so and so and he's this and this. If I reflect from a perspective of Hadeeth, I believe that politicians have a very high chance of, inshallah, they are people of Iman at the end. They have a very high chance of coming out completely clean. Reason being, because on that day, people would be questioned for what they have done. So I'll share with you a hadith, and this hadith will make the point very clear. Rasulullah said that he asked Sahaba Ikram that who is Mazloom, who is Muflis, and who is Mazloom. So Sahaba Radhiyallahu anhu started saying that so and so person, so and so person, so and so. Rasulullah said no. So he said, Ya Allah, Ya Rasulullah, explain to us who is Mazloom and who is Muflis. He said he would be a person who's Muflis, not Mazloom, who's Muflis. So he said he would be a person who would come to on the day of judgment with mountains of good deeds. He would have so many good deeds that it would be as though they are, it's like a mountain stacked up. So many good deeds. And then when his deeds would be reviewed, there would be number of people that he would have offended through backbiting, through some other means, by hurting them, by being rude to them, by cheating them, by saying something about them which has hurt them. One way or the other, he would have hurt them. So now all those people whose rights he has violated, they would come and they would ask for justice. And the way he would have to pay them off would be by giving his good deeds to them. So he would start giving his good deeds to them till a point comes where there would be no more good deeds left to be given. So now those people who are still left, whose rights he has violated, they would start putting off their bad deeds onto him. And then eventually would come a point where he would now have a mountain heap of bad deeds. And at that point in time, it would be said that take him into Jahannam. So this would be a muflis person. So a politician whose backbiting we are too eager to do, on whom we are too keen to accuse things without any proof, without any knowledge, he would come and ask for justification on that day. He would, and we would have to give some justification, and if we would have none, we would have to give our good deeds. My Shaykh always says that, when you say something about anyone, a politician or anyone, always ask yourself this question, that if I am asked to justify this comment of mine about him, would I be able to do that on the day of judgment or not? And when you can't, then just stay quiet. So please preserve this nur, and this nur gets leaked very, very, very quickly when we do all of these things, and especially when we not take care of our eyes, take care of our tongues, take care of our ears and all that. But there is one more dimension which has a very negative impact on what we want to achieve from the month of Ramadan. And that is related to our inward sins, the sins which are within us, which, if I am to say in another word, is a spiritual disease as well. So one is the outward things that we do, the wrongs that we do, which are going against the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the other is the intrinsic diseases that we have from within us, which we don't even realize is a disease. The problem with these inner diseases is that when we do the outward sins, they just stop us from attaining a certain level. They don't discard us from benefiting from it, meaning to say that the nur would still come, but it would get leaked, right? Because there would be a hole because of the sin that we have done. But nur would still come. But these inner diseases, they are so harmful that they don't even make us get the nur. They disqualify us to an extent that we are not even worthy of attaining the nur of the month of Ramadan. And hence it is very, very, very important to A, be mindful of what they are, and B, do something about them before the month of Ramadan. They are our spiritual diseases, they are the diseases that we carry in our heart, and they are the cancers which spread within us. And they are to do with, if I am to name them, they are arrogance, they are jealousy, they are malice, they are hatred, they are stinginess, they are being miser, they are being envious of others. And the common factor in all of these things, if I were to draw a bottom line which all of these resides on, is a big ego. Main. All of them link up onto that. Why am I saying that this disqualifies us altogether? Is because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he once explained at length to Sahaba Ikram radhiyallahu ajma'in as to the benefits of Ramadan, and he said that in the month of Ramadan there is a night where Jibreel alayhi salam, along with the forces of angels, they descend down. And it's a long hadith, but the summary of it is that the angels go and they meet people and they give them, they say Ameen to the du'as that those people are making, and they give them glad tidings of forgiveness, and their statuses are elevated, their spiritual strength is fortified. All of those things take place, and then in the end, when it is Fajr time, the angels gather back, and then the last part of this hadith, Rasulullah says that all of that greatness that happens to the Sahaba, to the people who benefit from that night of Ramadan, there are 4 people who are deprived of it. There are 4 people who are deprived from it. So the Sahaba Ikram were very keen to know that who are those 4 people who are deprived from such a blessed night. Rasulullah said that the 4 people who are deprived from it is, number 1 is a person who is addicted to alcohol. Number 2 is a person who is disobedient to his parents. Number 3 is a person who has cut his family ties. And number 4 is a person who has malice or grudge in his heart. Kina ya boz. So these 4 things, they are all to do with our inner state. Nobody from looking at your state, there hardly anything physical with this. This is a lot to do with the inner state. And hence why today I want to focus on, after talking about the outward sins, I want to talk about the inward sins. In another hadith, just to to link these two things up, that how critical they are, and what great loss there is to if we stay deprived from the blessings of month of Ramadan. Pay attention to this hadith. Rasulullah ﷺ said that, he didn't say, in fact he was once walking onto the member to offer the khutbah of Jummah, and as he took the first step he said Ameen, and as he took the second step he said Ameen, and he took the third step he said Ameen. So and then he went on, he gave the khutbah. When he came down, the Sahaba Ikram radiallahu ta'ala anhu, they asked that, Ya Rasulullah, is this something, a new order has come that now when you have to take the steps you would be saying Ameen? He said, no, something different happened today. Today when I was about to climb, Jibreel alayhi salam came and he made a dua and he asked me to say Ameen to that dua. So Sahaba Ikram said that, Ya Rasulullah, what was the duas that he made, and what did you say Ameen to? So he said that the first dua he made was that, cursed be the person who finds the month of Ramadan and does not use it to gain his forgiveness. And Jibreel Amin made this dua and Rasulullah ﷺ said Ameen to it. The next step, Jibreel alayhi salam, he made the dua that, cursed be the person who finds his parents in their old age and does not use it to gain his forgiveness. And Rasulullah ﷺ said Ameen to it. And the third one was that, cursed be the person in front of whom the name of Rasulullah ﷺ is taken and he does not offer his salawat on Rasulullah ﷺ. So this is a very, very serious matter. This is Jibreel alayhi salam, not an ordinary angel. If a dua was to be made by any ordinary angel, even then that would have been a very important dua. But this is a dua that is being made by Jibreel alayhi salam, the head angel. And Ameen on that is being said by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the best of the best of the best. So there is no doubt in this dua being accepted. And the dua is putting the curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on three people whose Ramzan go to waste, whose parents they can't take care of, or who do not have the adab of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if we are to remain deprived despite all the fasting, despite all the taraweehs, despite all the efforts that we put in, and yet we are to stay deprived from the blessing of the Ramadan because we have these inner diseases, then it's a big loss. It's a big loss. Hence, we must understand what these three of these major issues are and how do we address them. Alhamdulillah, I say three because I believe that by grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala we would be safe from the habit of being addicted to alcohol. Having said that, there is another addiction that we all carry, and that is the addiction of what I call the thumb problem. We have this addiction of just till we are not scrolling down on our screens and getting the next update, we feel something is missing in our lives. And it is very, very, once you are too used to, it's so integrated in our lives that we feel that there is something missing when it's not there. We need to not be addicted to our screens as well. But I think I've spoken a lot about that as is, so I'll skip this part and I'll come to the other three things which are very critical. Of that, number one being Kina and Bughz, which is translated mostly as malice and grudge, right? This disease is purely born out of when we think that our rights have been violated. And we think that our rights are violated because we think too high of ourselves. So if somebody gets something and we don't get it, we start saying, why did he end up getting it or she end up getting it and I didn't? I would have been more deserving of it. When somebody does something to us, we say that how dare he has done this to me, I didn't deserve to be treated like this. The point is that if we accept the fact that whatever happens to me only by will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we will never ever hold any individual responsible for what happens to us. Because that person has not done this to us out of his own free will. He has done it because Allah allowed it to happen to me and he became a mean of happening this. What he does is he is answerable to what and between him and Allah he has to answer. But what has happened to me because Allah wanted that to happen to me and he just became or she just became a source of that happening to me. And the other point is that Allah knows what I'm supposed to get and what I'm not supposed to get and what holds khair for me. If we understand these 2 points, it becomes very, very, very easy not to have grudge against anyone. Because then we would never be holding any individual responsible for what has happened to us. And because we can't hold Allah responsible for what happens to us, the only option left with us would be to be razi with what has happened to us. And that is what we need to attain. We need to get from holding others responsible and then holding a grudge against them to a point where we are content with what has happened to us because Allah wanted that to happen to me. And even if that means us getting humiliated in the middle of the street with everybody watching. It's very easy to say this, very hard for it to really get down. But the bottom line is that if Allah didn't want us to experience that zillat, nobody would have had the possibility of holding us, putting us to that embarrassment. Holding a grudge against a person is considered one of the major sins. It is something that certainly deprives the person, as I've already mentioned, from the blessings of Ramadan. It also deprives the person from the blessings of the nights like tonight. So it is not worth keeping these grudges. It's not worth, holding those. And I tell you where these grudges mostly are. These grudges aren't really with so and so colleague of mine who worked with me in X company. Some people even have those grudges. But these grudges are mostly with my mother-in-law did this to me. My father-in-law did this to me. It's in my brother-in-law, my sister. It's in those rishtadariyan where we usually have these grudges. And somehow we are not willing to let go of those grudges. But they're not worth it. If you realize what they do to us, if you realize how much they take away from us, they are not worth it. We are better off keeping our heart clean. We are better off just cleaning everything from our heart, forgiving everyone and hoping from Allah that, in return I will be forgiven. When we forgive people in this dunya, Allah will forgive us in akhirah. That is worth every single bit. At times people say, I am not going to forgive you, I will hold you accountable on the day of judgment. Just reflect on this statement. Would we we are so perfect that we will have on that day of judgment, we will have so much senses that, I have to hold this accountable. On that day, we would not even know, what to do. If by forgiving somebody in this dunya, we get forgiven on that day, that is the ultimate bonus that we can get. That is the ultimate bonus that we can get. We must forgive. We must forgive. There was once a Sahabi, he walked in and Rasulullah ﷺ looked at that Sahabi and he said that a person of Jannah has walked in. So the other Sahabi, he was very curious to know what is it so special about this Sahabi that Rasulullah ﷺ said that this is a person of Jannah. So he said to him that, Rasulullah, I want to, he said to that Sahabi that, oh brother, I want to spend 3 days, 3 nights with you. I want to just be with you. So he said, okay, just be with me. So he stayed 3 days, 3 nights with him, keenly observing that what extra does he do that makes him a person of Jannah. And after 3 days, he said to him, like, look, I saw you, and observed you day and night, and I see there's nothing extra you do. You pray, you do the tasbihat, the zikr, the nawafil, whatever you do, but there's nothing over and above. So, but this is what Rasulullah said about you. What is it that makes you so special? He said, I don't see anything special in me. But what I can only think of is that before going to sleep every night, I clear my heart for everyone. I forgive everyone and I clear my heart from everyone. And this quality of his made him a person of Jannah. Rasulullah said that the one who forgives the other person in this dunya, he would be like this, like 2 fingers together with me on the day of judgment. We make so much dua that, Ya Allah, put us in the company of Rasulullah, please allow us to be with him. Without making any dua, with just on the guarantee of Rasulullah, that just by forgiving everybody, we will be like this. And what does it mean to forgive? Does it mean that I just say I've forgiven, the next time I see that person? That's not forgiving. Forgiving is that now, even though that we still feel that pinch in our heart, because we are humans at the end of the day, we now go up and go and say salam to him. Salam is the best nullifier of these feelings. The best. Go say salam to them. Initiate the salam. Afshush salam. Rasulullah said that you will not enter Jannah till you have love between yourselves. And should I tell you something that will increase love within you? Sahaba said, what is it, Ya Rasulullah? Rasulullah said, initiate salam. Say salam to each other. Give presents to the other person. It's very hard. When you do not like that person, you still go and spend your money, buy a present, give it to that person. It's hard. But this neutralizes the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us this, that if there is somebody whom you have a heart feeling with, then be nice to that person. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that by being nice to that person, it may so become that that person may become one of your best friends. So, objective is to neutralize this hatred by first clearing our heart and then by extending love, and not just saying that, I've cleared it, but I don't want to see that person. Iska muh mujhse bardasht nahi hota. There's a statement that bardasht nahi hota. We have to overcome, because when we are still saying ke mujhse bardasht nahi hota and this is happening or that is happening, that means that we haven't forgiven. That means that complete effect has not yet taken place. The second thing that we need to take care of is the relationships which are blood relationships. And in these blood relationships, it starts with our siblings, then goes on to our mamus, chachas, puppos, and then their offsprings, our cousins, first cousins, second cousins, and so on and so forth. We are not allowed to cut off our relationships under any circumstances, except when that relationship is forcing us to do something against the Sharia. Only at that point in time we can cut off that relationship, but even at that point in time still we are not meant to be rude or have ill feelings for that other person. It's just that because that person is forcing you to do something against the Sharia, therefore you do not pursue that relationship. Rasulullah said that the one who does zulm and the one who cuts off relationship, he is most deserving that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should punish him in this dunya, and the punishment for him in the hereafter will remain. So this is one of those things that draw the punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this dunya itself. In another hadith, Rasulullah said that in terms of doing good deeds, the thing that draws the most mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is being nice to the people, is to fulfill the blood relationships, and the thing that is worse in terms of the deeds done in this dunya is zulm and to cut off blood relationships. Now, from a practical, I spoke at length about the other disadvantages of cutting off relationships, but from a practical perspective, what is it that we can do from blood relationship, maintaining the blood relationship? Or what does it mean to have blood relationships? Are we supposed to make a phone call to somebody every 3 days and then find out how everybody is? What is it that we're supposed to do? Well, first thing is that we should not be on knowingly, intentionally on not talking terms with anyone. So we should not have declared war with somebody. We should not have court cases lingering with our brothers or sisters. And unfortunately it happens. It happens a lot. It shouldn't be happening. And this is where all those things about forgiving comes into play that we spoke about a while back. That if, again, remember that if you let go to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the person who is truly a champion is the one who lets go of his rights despite being on the right. And again, a person who lets go of his rights despite being on the right gains a birthplace next to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on the day of judgment. So the trade-off is too good to be true. Once Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was giving the importance of maintaining the blood ties, and a Sahabi came and he said that, but that person so and so, he cuts off his ties with me. I've tried to maintain him, but he cuts it off. He's hard, he's this, he's that. Rasulullah said that if you think about, and I'm paraphrasing, if you think about the ajr that you get of doing this, it is worth the effort. And Sila Rahmi is that we join those who break from us. So if there is somebody in our family who doesn't want, yes, it doesn't mean that hum literally ho jaye, bilkul uske saath piche pad jaye. It doesn't mean that as well. But it means that from our side, the doors are always open. You are more than welcome. And at the same time, we are genuinely concerned about them, so that if, God forbid, they ever go into a state where they are in trouble, health-wise, wealth-wise, or any other reasons, we are there to hold their hand. We are there to take care of them. We are there to extend our support to them. All of this is Sila Rahmi. It doesn't mean that you have to speak to somebody, but if that you are not, upset to a point that you are not on talking terms altogether, and B, you are connected enough to know how the other person is, and if ever the other person is not well, then you are there to support them, and that they should know that that from your end they're always welcome. They're always welcome, right? And then as far as your brothers and sisters, your blood relationships are concerned, then to take their children as your own children, to take care of their needs as your own needs, to look out for them, to be there for them, to advise them, and if ever required, to support them as though you would do so for your own family. These are important things as far as the blood relationships are concerned. It's easy these days if you have family groups on your WhatsApps and everything. This is where I do encourage use of social media. So there is some benefit of it. It's good to just say salam to everyone, wish everyone, and just as a means of expressing your gratitude to them and just saying hello to them. Now, the third thing, to keep the story simple and short, that is a nullifier, is being disobedient to our parents. And I want to say something over here which may be a bit hard to digest, is that whenever we talk about parents, we only think of our mother and our father and we just limit it over there. Actually, parents do include your in-laws as well. Your in-laws are also your parents. Your mother-in-law, your father-in-law, they are also your parent. Yes, they are not your biological parents, but in terms of the respect level, their respect is no less. Their respect is no less. If we keep on having that line of division that this is your parents and this is my parents, you will never become a joint family. That family cohesion and unit will never come together. It has to be that these are our parents and we are duty bound to respect them as we are to respect our biological parents. It has to be like that. If and only we develop that mindset, can we have harmony in multiple phases of our lives. And again, as parents, we should also not be distinguishing between that this is my daughter-in-law and this is my daughter. So, that in-law part has to go away. Because if it doesn't go away, we are not going to achieve what the Shariat demands of us. A lot of issues these days are because the son is pitched between the mother and the wife, and the both have their own flaws. The mother are also, I don't want to go into those debates right now, but if we do not have, if we start treating our daughter-in-laws as our daughters, and if I start treating our mother-in-laws as our mother, and even as men, if we start treating our in-laws as our parents, a lot of these issues will go away. There are some questions that are coming up. Let me take those questions up, because somebody is repeatedly sending questions. Okay. Sorry, if I start reading, there was lengthy questions, so hold your questions and I'll come back to them, please. Sorry. What does it mean to respect the parents? The wording that comes in Quran and the ayah that I recited earlier on as well, actually it makes it very, very clear that what is the status that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had put for the parents. وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا, that your Allah, your Rabb, has ordered you that do not worship anyone except Him. Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders us to ensure that there is no shirk, and right after that, with waw as a joiner, and those of you who have studied Arabic know that when the waw comes as a joiner, that means that the two are at the same level. It's to be, the significance of them is the same. وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. In other words, do not do shirk and take care of your parents. That's the level of importance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to it. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala builds up onto it, that how do you take care of them? That فَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا uff, that do not even say uff to them. And this ayah amazes me so much, that the expression that we come up whenever we are frustrated is uff. And that frustration, and this is the least level of disrespect when we are showing to anyone. And I've noticed this myself, that even with my own parents at times, when they are saying something, uff, kya kar rahe, like even as that this word uff as an expression, and I am in my mind saying this in a very jokingly manner, in a very lovingly manner, and there's not even an iota of disrespect in my mind that I'm trying to show to my parents, yet the expression that is coming out is uff. And when I reflect on how my children are at their age, 10 under, when you tell them to do something, their first frustration is uff, like that. It's like uff, kya kaam de diya, like we don't want to do this. It's not that they want to disrespect, but they realize that it's heavy on them and they have to do something which they don't want to do. So this oof basically nubs it in the bud. Say that when something comes to you, in other words, it's saying is that nothing that your parent says to you should be heavy on you. Nothing that they say to you should be heavy on you. Everything should be readily accepted. The big thing. It's not a simple task. It's not simple at all. But this is Quran. فَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا uff. And then it builds up. Because once we first say uff, and then, then we start correcting them. They say that when your child is young, he is, obedient to you. And then once he, aids a bit of consciousness, then he becomes advisor to you. So he has his or her input that I think we should do it like this, or it can be done better like this. And then after a while, they become an instructor to you, like do it like this, this is better for you. So Quran is also taken uff, and then the next stage is taking it to is that now do not even raise your voice to them. Unko jhagro bhi mat. Do not correct them. Very, very natural to do, especially with your old parents. And this Quran is talking about in the kibara ahaduhuma, that when they have each reached the age where they are old now. Bhaiyon and Behno, parents are the key to Jannah. They are the key to Jannah. Living, or even if they have passed away, they are the key to Jannah. How are the key to Jannah? Living. Because Rasulullah said that your father is from the middle doors of the Jannah. So use this door to enter the Jannah. What does middle door means? It means that right in the center, easiest. You don't have to take any shortcuts. A dua of a father has no barriers between him and Allah. बाप की दुआ में कोई और खलल नहीं है उसकी और अल्लाह के दरमियान. That's how direct father's dua is. And do you know between father and mother who has the highest status in respect? Any guesses? Mother has the highest. Respect for the mother is above the respect of the father. अगर बाप middle दरवाजा है तो माँ तो है ही जन्नत. And this is one thing that we don't take care of. We take it for granted while they are with us. And when they are not with us, we don't know what to do for them. Our parents, we must take care of. बिच जाएं, कुछ कर लें, but take care of them. Very, very important. And if they have left, know that you are now their source for entering into Jannah. Live your life to such perfection, because every single good deed that you would do would be a sadqa jariyah for them. Any good that you do goes to them. There was once a sheikh, he saw a dream, and he saw that he was going to a graveyard, and as he passed that graveyard, he saw that everybody is rushing to come and collect some things except one person. So he found out what is happening. He said that these are the peoples of this graveyard, and they are waiting to find out, all those who have gathered, they are waiting to find out that if anybody has sent any hadiyah for them. So he said, why is that person not moving? He said that person has a son who is a Hafiz, and he recites Quran every day, and that automatically comes as a hadiyah for him. So he is easy. So he said, let me find out who this son is. So he found out that who this person was, and he went and he realized that this son of his is basically a shopkeeper. So he went to his shop and he observed that he is somebody who is a Hafiz, and he's all day in his shop, whatever he is doing, he is reciting Quran. So he realized that yes, hadiyah is going to him. After a while he saw the dream again, and he saw that now this person along with the others was also gathered just to see if any hadiyah has come. So he said, what happened to him? Why is he now? So he said that because his son has now passed away. So he went to verify, and he realized that yes, the son has passed away. So as long as we as the children, any good deed that we do, it automatically goes to our parents. So mold our lives, reshape our lives to the point that it becomes a source of sadaqah for our parents. Be mindful of that. While they're alive, use them. Use them. Use them to gain du'as from them. Use them for that they pray for your maghfirat. They pray for your success in dunya and akhirah. Please them. There are 5 categories to being an obedient child. Number 1 is that when our parents say something, we completely discard it. We say that, kya mere sar pe musibat aa gayi. Somebody who is like that, who is disobedient to his parents, no matter what he does, otherwise in terms of neki, there's nothing that's accepted from him. If you are a disobedient child to your parents, if you break your parents' heart, if you raise your voice on them, if you na'uzubillah raise your hands on them, you can forget about gaining anything good from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At a second level, if you're a child who listens to your parents, but it is a great burden on you. You listen to them, but it is a great burden on you. If it is like that, then that burden of yours, because it comes into that category of being and correcting your parents, that still nullifies any good that you do afterwards. At the third level, if you're somebody who does what your parents ask you to do, but then afterwards you अब जताते हैं उनको कि मैंने आपके लिए वो काम किया था, I did that for you, I did that for you. अगर आप अपने पेरेंट्स को जताने वाले हैं तो उस वक्त जो आपने नेकी की होती है वो तो मिल जाता है आपको, लेकिन उसके बाद it again negates any good that you have done. And number 4 is that if you are somebody who listens to your parents and as they do it, that is when you are at a good shape. But the best is that the one who anticipates that what is it that will make my parents happy and does it without even them asking for it, that is the person who has really attained success as far as the parents are concerned. I don't want to take much more of the time, it's already quite late. But these 3 things, we must clear our inner selves from them before the start of Ramadan to ensure that we are not among those who are outright disqualified from gaining the blessings of this month. What are those 3 things? Clean your heart. Forgive everyone of everything. Clean your heart of any malice, of any hatred, of any grudge that we may have for anyone, for whatever reason. No matter what they have done, forgive them for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tonight, think of all those, take out that little book that we carry in our hearts, strike out all the names, turn away that page and just throw it forever. Take it out from our books, forgive everyone. Number 2, reflect, think that who is it that we are not on talking terms with in our families. If there are such relationships, initiate and say sorry. Even if you are not at fault, even if they are 100% at fault, say something to say that let's tie up again. You would have done your part by initiating that conversation. If there's no reciprocation, then it's not on you. But initiate that. Number 3 is invest in this gold mine, which is your parents. Invest in them. Invest in them. In whatever way possible, invest in them. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for us to do all of these things. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to benefit from. Akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. We'll take those questions, but now Hazrat Bayan has started. So we'll switch to Hazrat's Bayan and then we'll take the questions after.
Ahmed bhai wal haq mein 10
His nikah is going on.
साल के 12 महीने محرم کا مہینہ مجاہدے کا مہینہ، سیدنا اسماعیل علیہ السلام کی قربانی بھی محرم میں ہوئی اور سیدنا حسین رضی اللہ عنہ کی قربانی میں دی۔ تو محرم کا مہینہ مجاہدے کا مہینہ، ذوالحجہ کا مہینہ اللہ کے تو سال کی ابتدا مجاہدے سے اور سال کی انتہا مشاہدے پہ۔ پھر اس میں جو درمیان کا مہینہ ہے نا وہ بنتا ہے رجب کا مہینہ، انسانیت کی معراج کا مہینہ ہے۔ نبی علیہ الصلوۃ والسلام کو رجب میں معراج میں اب دیکھیں دو حصے دو ششماہیاں بن گئی۔ پہلی ششماہی میں اللہ نے ربیع الاول سے اس کو زینت بخشی، رحمت للعالمین تشریف لے آئے، اور دوسری شہی کو اللہ نے رمضان سے زینت۔ اللہ کا قرآن ترتیب یہ بنے گی، سال کی ابتدا مجاہدے سے اور سال کی انتہا مشاہدے پہ، درمیان کے حصے میں اللہ نے معراج عطا فرمائی، پھر پہلی شش ماہی میں اللہ نے رحمت للعالمین کو بھیجا کائنات کے لیے، دوسری شش ماہی میں اللہ نے رمضان کو بھیجا جو پوری انسانیت کے لیے رحمت کا چاہیے تھے، بڑے اہم ہیں۔ رجب شعبان حدیث مبارکہ میں آتا ہے کہ جب رجب شروع ہوتا تھا تو نبی علیہ السلام دعا مانگتے تھے، اللہم بارک لنا فی رجب و شعبان و بلغنا، اے اللہ ہمیں رجب اور شعبان میں برکت عطا فرما اور ہمیں رمضان تک۔ نبی صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم اس مہینے کا انتظار کرتے تھے، وش کرتے تھے کہ اے اللہ رجب اور شعبان میں برکت عطا فرما اور ہمیں رمضان تک پہنچا۔ مختلف علماء نے جانے کے لیے، بعض نے کہا کہ رجب کا مہینہ انگریزی کا مہینہ ہے اور شعبان کا مہینہ آب پاشی کا مہینہ اور رمضان کا مہینہ فصل کاٹنے کا مہینہ، جو نیکیوں فصل ہم کاٹیں گے اس کا اجر اللہ میں عطا فرمائے۔ بعض نے کہا کہ رجب کا مہینہ پتے نکلنے کا مہینہ، شعبان کا مہینہ پھل لگنے کا اور رمضان کا مہینہ پھل کاٹنے کا مہینہ۔ بعض نے اس کو اس انداز سے سمجھایا کہ رجب کا مہینہ رحمت کی ہوا چلنے کا، شعبان کا مہینہ بادل آنے کا مہینہ اور رمضان کا مہینہ رحمتوں کی بارش ہونے کا۔
میٹھا دینے کو ان کو
بعض علماء نے کہا کہ رجب کا مہینہ مال کی پاکی کا مہینہ، چونکہ عام طور پہ رجب زکوٰۃ ادا کی جاتی ہے اور زکوٰۃ سے انسان کا مال پاک ہو جاتا ہے، دل صاف ہو جاتا ہے۔ من اموالہم صدقۃ تطہرہم وتزکیہم بہا، تو رجب کا مہینہ مال کی پاکی کا مہینہ، شعبان کا مہینہ بدن کی پاکی اور رمضان کا مہینہ قلب کی پاکی کا مہینہ۔ رمضان کو عمل پر 70 گنا اجر ملتا ہے، شعبان میں 700 گنا ملتا ہے اور رمضان میں بندے کو 1000 گنا اجر۔ نبی علیہ السلام نے حدیث مبارکہ میں بات کو ایسے سمجھایا، فرمایا کہ رجب کا مہینہ اللہ کا مہینہ، غریبوں کو زکوٰۃ ملتی ہے نا، تو فرمایا یہ اللہ تم اللہ کے لیے دیتے ہو، اور فرمایا کہ شعبان کا مہینہ میرا مہینہ، شعبان کے مہینے نبی علیہ السلام نے اپنے ساتھ نسبت دی، یہ میرا مہینہ ہے، اور فرمایا کہ رمضان کا مہینہ میری